Hi, I'm Peter Tragos, host of the Lawyer You Know podcast and YouTube channel. The saying goes, everyone hates lawyers until you need one. Well, I'm here when you need one to answer your questions and give you insight that you didn't know you needed. Along with my partners, Pete Sardis, the professor, who has a finance and business background, and George Tragos, my dad, and the consigliere, a criminal defense giant, we can answer any questions you have. What's up, everybody? We had some fireworks today. One of the moments we've all been waiting for throughout the trial. Amber Heard started her testimony. Amber Lauren Heard, or Lauren Amber Heard, depending on who you ask, as Elaine started off with a bang on the direct examination. We are here to talk about what happened at the trial today. It's not just Amber Heard. We're also going to talk about Dr. Hughes, because I think that cross was really important. And I definitely want to talk about Dr. Hughes first, because I actually think I have a take there that some people may not agree with, but it will help me at least try to stay grounded as we talk about Amber Heard and her testimony, because I had some serious feelings that I don't often have in a case that I'm not involved in as I watched and listened to her talk on the stand today. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk a lot about that. We'll talk about the judge. We'll talk about the lawyers. And of course, at the end, we will answer a bunch of questions. There were a few that came in before the video started, like an hour-ish or even earlier in the chat, which I'm not always going to get to. So I'm just going to say that. I said it last night. I'm saying it again. I'll consider those donations that I'm thankful for, but I'm not going to, if I miss them, I miss them. There's nothing really I can do about it. One of them was from Torifile again. We did everything we could to find your last super chat. We could not find it. And again, we have an early one, which again is cool. And if I see it, I will answer it. If I don't, there's not really much I can do. AH literally made JD look like a psychopath. Will this work? Did you find my missing super chat from yesterday? No. Please tell me the jury will see through her lies. Didn't she oversell it? That will be answered in detail in today's video. And then Sonia Hart said, what do you think about my bruise comment, which said, that doesn't look like a bruise from somebody grabbing Amber Heard. It looks like she got a shot or she bumped into something. So we will answer that as well on today's show. So we're going to go through what actually happened. We've broken 50K, so we also have some fun channel stuff we're going to do tonight. We are going to pick a winner from the giveaway from our community page, somebody that answered the question. I'm going to read a couple of my favorite answers, and then we'll also read our winner. We'll do that at some point. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet and you want to get in on the giveaways, there's still time. Instead of doing the Starbucks gift card, because I actually talked to some people about this, and last time we had more people get ticked about it because when they showed up to Starbucks, the money was out. Then we actually had people that were excited about it, and sometimes people went and bought 100 drinks. So this time we're going to do a couple of individual giveaways instead. If we announce the winner and you're on the live or watching this video later, send us your address to lawyeryouknow@gmail.com, and we're going to send you some of the merch. Today, we're going to give away a mega pint, a Lawyer You Know mega pint. So I'll announce that winner in a little bit. But if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button and like the video if you haven't already. Let's jump in to why we're here. Let's talk about the trial. Let's talk about what happened today. It was a big Wednesday with one day left before we take a long break, which we will talk about at the end of the video, how that's going to affect the trial. But we started out with cross of Dr. Hughes. And I've talked about this a lot on this channel. I've talked about it on Ricada. I've talked about it on Legal Bites. By the way, I was on Ricada Law today for a couple different sessions, and I'm going to be on Legal Bites tomorrow morning. So if you want to check me out on there or you watch the trial, check us out there. That's where I'll be. We talked about what we would do and what kind of my strategy would be if I cross-examined Dr. Hughes. And we saw some of that, right? We saw a lot of focus on the pronouns, the he, she or her or Amber was always the victim. He, him, Johnny was always the abuser. And how we can use that's so she's obviously biased. She has her opinion walking into it. In every case she's an expert on, that's the way she sees it, which shows that that's kind of her bias even as an expert. But I don't feel like he dug into it enough. I don't feel like Johnny's lawyer dug into it enough. I felt like he let her off a little bit easy. He also, this is a stylistic difference kind of in cross-examination. This guy's been a lawyer a lot longer than I have, and he's a partner at some litigation firm, right? I'm not calling him a bad lawyer. I don't like doing that. I can talk about how we maybe do things a little bit differently. A lot of people frown on writing out questions. And I may be one of those people, right? I usually outline my direct examination and my cross-examination. But when I do cross, I always have a number of specifically written questions for a couple of reasons. Number one, I take deposition cites and I literally write it next to my questions, where it says, whatever my question is, page 8, line 15 of his deposition, dated whatever date. So if they lie, it's very easy for me to come and impeach them. That's number one. Number two, if there is something that I need that's got a lot of different acronyms and verbiage in it that makes it hard to just go off the top of your head, I will write it down. Such as, have any of your patients or people you've testified for been men who have been the victim of interpersonal violence or intimate relationship violence? What is it? I'm blanking on it, whatever. And this is why you write it down. Perfect example. This is not acting. This is the real deal. But this is why you write it down. IPV, that was the victim of IPV with a female partner, and the female was the abuser. That's the question. What he asked was, you've never testified where the male is a victim in a case like this. And she said, yes, I have. And she mentioned a prison scene where it was male-on-male violence. And obviously the male, since there was only males involved, was the victim. But the male was also the perpetrator. So that didn't get the answer that he wanted, and he didn't ask it another way. He just kind of ate that answer and kept moving on. I would have said, okay, fine, let's set that one aside. Let's talk specifically about intimate partner violence. Have you ever testified for a male victim of intimate partner violence where the female was the abuser? Which, if you're Johnny's lawyers, that's what we have here is what we're trying to argue. He didn't ask that question. He didn't get the answer that he wanted to. So overall, as we're getting there, I think Dr. Hughes actually came across better on cross than she did on direct. We talked about her direct at length already, so I'm not going to get back into that. So he talked about her bias, how much money she makes, $500 an hour. There was a mistake in the depo where she said she made $100 an hour, but that was just a mistake in the depo in the court reporting. She makes hundreds of thousands of dollars. Half of what she does is testifying. Half of what she does is clinician, meaning treating patients. He put in a couple of her PowerPoint presentations, which he only asked about the first page, which I thought was interesting. And there's a couple different ways, or a couple different reasons for that. You can put that in to try to impeach her or show her bias that she always testifies in the same way. But to not ask her about it, maybe you don't want her to be able to explain it. You as the lawyer just want to explain it yourself on closing argument, which makes sense because you don't have anybody arguing with you there. You can just pull those PowerPoints up and use them how you want. Or maybe he's going to use them in rebuttal with his own expert if he recalls Dr. Curry. I didn't think it was great, but I get it. And one of them was to the battered women syndrome, which I guess he's going to try to say shows bias. But the other was to the Bar Association, which is very unbiased and shows that she's an expert that teaches lawyers and judges about this stuff. So I don't know if I would have put that one in and let her talk about how she, is that high level of an expert. He got her to admit. This is one of the highlights of the cross, in my opinion, because I don't think there were a lot. I really like that lawyer's demeanor, but if you're an out-of-town lawyer and you see the hometown lawyers cutting off expert witnesses and controlling them, you have to pick up on that and use that. And he didn't at all. He did not control Dr. Hughes. He didn't stop her from explaining or giving context or pushing her agenda in the cross. He let her explain, and I think that was good for Amber Heard's team. Where was I going with that? Oh, so she did not have an opinion on if Johnny Depp even was a perpetrator of IPV. She wrote down there that that was the most severe version of whatever the abuse was. The way that she filled out all of her testing, I thought was horrible. And I don't think he hammered enough on that. I would have stuck there and gone through every page and compared that to Dr. Curry's report, which they may still do in rebuttal. But it's like, how often would this happen? She leaves that blank, but then circles a number on the side too, that means twice a month or whatever. It's like, that's just your definition. How's anybody else supposed to read that? How's a jury supposed to know that? Is that how you're supposed to administer this test for somebody that knocked on another expert for not administering that test properly? Not a great look for the expert. And I think he did a good job there. I would have dug into it a little bit more. The third highlight for Johnny Depp's lawyer on cross was when he actually played the recording that said, Amber Heard admitted starting a physical fight, punching him in the face, and how Johnny did the admirable thing by retreating. And Amber Heard called Johnny Depp a baby and was very clearly not the victim in that situation. And she even had to agree. Dr. Hughes had to agree with him there. Great job. Okay. But where's the miss? And where do I think he missed? All of the other recordings, all of the other interactions he has where she is either the abuser, calling him a baby, calling him washed up, using all of the language that Dr. Hughes spent hours on yesterday, explaining how that's how somebody is the abuser, even a sexual abuser, based on that intimidation and language. How about the surveillance? Why doesn't he play the secret videos that Amber Heard made of Johnny and ask if that fits into the abuser category that Dr. Hughes talked about again for hours yesterday? I would have asked her all those questions about Amber Heard that we already have in evidence because she said she's reviewed all of this. I would have taken a while with her probably and gone through all the evidence that we have all already seen, that a lot of which is pretty believable and even some is pretty unbiased, that shows she is actually the abuser and he is the victim. Another good part here. So I said there wasn't that many good parts, but I'm picking out all the good parts, but I'm also pointing out where I thought he missed. And overall, I think it was a win for Dr. Hughes and a win for Amber Heard's team on her cross because he could have gotten so much more. We'll get to the biggest mistake of the entire trial potentially later. And if you saw me on other channels, you probably already saw me talk about it, but we'll dig into it. When he asked her about the eating disorder and the MDMA and the shrooms and stuff that she admitted to her nurse from Amber's own mouth, and that's important because everything that this doctor testified to as facts and data points is from Amber Heard's mouth and from Amber Heard's mouth only. So it's pretty important when we have another note from Amber Heard's mouth from her nurse, yet she says, I didn't see that anywhere else but the nurse's notes and I didn't agree with it. That's a quote I wrote down. What does that mean? You don't agree with it? You don't agree with Amber? Or you think that the nurse was lying in her notes? Or as Rottenborn likes to say, did I read that correctly? So some of the bad stuff that's coming out, she just says, yeah, I saw that, but I didn't agree with it. So how am I supposed to take you seriously if I'm a juror and you only take seriously what is good for Amber? That's a problem. All right. She's worked with that legal team before. No big deal, in my opinion. No documented injuries from Australia. Correct. Talking about the large knife. Does an abuse victim usually give a large knife that says "till death do us part" to their abusive partner? And putting in a little bit of context that we didn't have at the time, but now that Amber's had it, now that Amber's testified a little bit, is we know that she gave him this knife after, according to Amber, he physically abused her multiple times. Then we go to her report where under intimate relationships, she has James Franco and Elon Musk during time periods literally dated by her where Johnny and Amber were together. Yet she says they were just friends. And he's like, why'd you write it under the intimate partner section, which she clearly typed out? It wasn't a fillable form. And she could have just written friends, but she didn't. Then he mentioned, yeah, I got your notes. And she says, yeah, I gave them to you. I would have said, no, the judge forced you to give them to me. Number one. Number two, I have seen the shady videos that people have sent me on Instagram. I have seen them where she puts a green folder, which was clearly, I don't remember which color it was, but it's two different colors. The green folder, which was on there on the witness stand the entire time that she was referencing, she puts that in her purse and pulls out a blue folder. I don't know if that video is edited, but it looks shady. And then I also saw Amber's lawyers passing notes in an unnecessarily sneaky and sketchy way to the PR guy, because once they leave and all go back to the office where nobody sees them, the PR guy can just stop by the office and pick up whatever notes he wants. So I don't know why they would do that weird, passing of the notes like they did. The gold standard test for PTSD, the CAPS-5, the one that Curry administered, this expert diagnosed Amber Heard with PTSD before ever administering that test. Not great in a battle of the experts. The frequency and intensity of the injury. Here's a one question too much or too many problem that this lawyer had. She says, or he said, so are you saying that her injuries, or you said Johnny's are more intense or something like that? And she said, well, Amber's were more frequent. I would have left it with that answer, because implying that hers were more frequent means they weren't more intense, right? Just a little nitpick. Then the last part of this cross, and why I really would give it a failing grade potentially, is we talked about it yesterday in her direct. She so clearly opened the door to Amber Heard's prior domestic violence accusations when she said she's never had this problem in the past, which gives us no indication that she would be a perpetrator now. That's something she took into effect while making her decision. He asks, again, the wrong question because he didn't write down the correct question. They had all night to go get her testimony and verbatim write down what she said, but he didn't do that. He asked a question like, you said before that there was no, I can't remember what he said. I can't remember the exact question, but it was not, you said before, as part of your analysis, you look to see if there's any history of domestic violence. And if she would have said yes, and there's no history for Amber, then he could have impeached her. But the question he asked her, she was able to kind of, I don't want to say lie, but kind of sneak around it. And then he asks to approach, to basically ask the judge for help. That's not going to fly. You take that answer she gave you and you keep pressing until somebody forces you to stop by an objection or the judge stepping in. You don't bring the judge into it when you already know you can impeach her. And I think that the judge said, I'm guessing that at sidebar yesterday, the judge said, this door has been opened and Johnny's lawyer, you can attack it on cross. And I think he blew it. And I think after he asked and answered that question, the judge says, you got to live with that answer. That's my guess. And that's based on having heard that a few times where the judge said, you asked your question, you got to live with that answer. But that's why you don't ask to go to sidebar when you're on the offensive and you're going after a witness. That DV, that prior accusation of DV, in my opinion, is incredibly relevant when an expert testifies like she did. And it didn't come in during her testimony, which was a huge win for her and a huge win for Team Heard. I really think that, legally speaking. Redirect, I didn't think anything really happened huge. They kept trying to object to the scope of disclosure, saying that she didn't disclose that she was going to do or give an opinion on this, but the judge kept overruling it. So overall, I think Dr. Hughes, as annoyed as a lot of people were yesterday and as biased as she seemed, I don't think cross-examination really brought out that bias. And I think it's possible that the jury thinks, wow, that makes sense. That lines up. Let's hear what Amber has to say, basically, after the first witness. Now, and I'm glad those are my feelings, because I have very different feelings for how Amber Heard did. I have some specifics of what she testified to, but I also have just a lot of thoughts. Holy cow, I have a lot of specifics here. Holy cow. We're not gonna go into all these specifics, but when people do things like blink a million times trying to make themselves cry, give details that don't matter to the story but are like poetry or in a book where you're trying to put the reader in the situation, like the carpet was so dirty, I never noticed how dirty it was before. And I thought to myself as I laid on the carpet after being abused, how am I going to get up off of this carpet? And then everybody's saying we want specifics. I will give the specifics. And then I could see my breath on the window. Again, trying to put you in the car. But then she followed it up with, I could see my breath on the window. And then I thought, what am I going to do next? So the breath on the window literally had nothing to do with the story. It wasn't, I had a big gash across my cheek because of the huge gold ring Johnny always wears. And here's a picture of it. Those are details that are actually provable or impeachable if you're lying. Whether or not the carpet's dirty or your breath was on the window are details. And we've talked about this, and we talked about it when Johnny testified. He gave a lot of detail which usually means you're telling the truth, because if those details are wrong, lawyers are usually going to find out and they're going to impeach you for that. But Amber's giving details that are unimpeachable. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of that. What else I'm not a big fan of is, I know it may seem silly, or it's crazy to look back and think that I thought that back then, or call me hopeful because I really loved him, to kind of couch and qualify what she's saying, because it doesn't make sense if you were an abuse victim in her situation. So she's trying to couch it like, I know this may be so unbelievable, which makes me think maybe it's because it's not true. And I don't want to be too hard on her because, God forbid, this is the truth. I don't know what the truth is, right? I'm just trying to look at it with how she testified, compare it to Johnny Depp, because that's a huge, huge part of this case. They're going to pick which client they like better, which party they like better is a huge part of what goes into the jury's mind. And it was night and day between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, in my opinion. It just seemed so coached down to every question. And anytime Elaine had to ad lib, Amber felt a little bit lost. And I mean, let's go through some specifics and just talk about kind of how this rolled and how this went. We got 5,000 people in here. That's awesome. Let's get 5,000 likes, and all of you guys subscribe so I can get 5,000 new subscribers tonight if you haven't already, because the statistics show 70+% of you are not subscribed. So hit that subscribe button before we get into the specifics of what Amber Heard testified to. After we get through the specifics is when I'm going to do the giveaway, and then we're going to get to the questions. I'm here. First off, I am ticked about all of this because I'm a plaintiff's lawyer, right? And then I do some defense work too. You are not allowed to testify to, and you're not allowed to sue somebody for the damages and the inconvenience they cause you by suing you. Yet, in opening, with other witnesses, and now with Amber, they have blamed Johnny for punishing her and hurting her by suing her, which is his constitutional right to have a trial by jury. I'm here because my ex-husband sued me for an op-ed. This lawsuit is the worst thing. She stuttered a little bit, but then said is the worst thing that ever happened to me. And if I was on Ricada, you may have heard me slip a little bit because I was annoyed at that and had a little passion. And I said something to the effect of, then I guess the abuse must not have been that bad, which was probably a bit insensitive. So I apologize for that. But honestly, if I'm here listening to a case where you said you've been sexually violated by a cavity search and by a bottle that you thought might be broken, and he raped you and forced oral sex, I would think that would be worse than having your deposition taken or having to show up at trial for 6 weeks. I honestly feel that way. I shouldn't have made the comment just because it was kind of crass in the moment, but honestly, I would be thinking that if I was a jury, if I was a juror, I would think, wait, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to you? Honestly, that's what I would have thought. And again, how hard this litigation is totally irrelevant to this case. It's totally irrelevant to defamation. It's totally irrelevant to her counterclaim. Then we get into her background, which is also totally irrelevant, except for the fact that she wants to talk about how tough she is and strong she is, and how she doesn't show emotion, and how she fights back because she knows how to break horses. I'm thinking Yellowstone. I don't know if any of you guys were, but when she talked about that's what her dad did and breaking horses, I'm thinking, oh, okay, John Dutton. I see this Casey Dutton, the horse breaker. She worked construction. She had all these tough jobs, right? Construction, working on the farm, breaking horses. Those are all kind of tough jobs, which again, she's trying to show how tough she is, which fine. Then she gets into acting, makeup, hair. She basically is on the young actress grind, which we get. She loves charity. She liked serving at the soup kitchen because she never wanted to be at home, okay? And I know that we've seen this. I know that we've seen this or heard this, that her father was abusive. I'm pretty sure. Yet I don't remember hearing it at all in her testimony. She did say she wanted to be away from home. That's why she liked serving at the soup kitchen, but I don't remember her saying why. She also said her mom could relate to her. That's why she wanted to talk to her mom about the abuse, but she didn't say why. So I don't know if I missed it, but basically she talked about how she was hustling basically from one job to the next, trying to get to make it in Hollywood. She wanted to make more for herself. She got her GED, dropped out of school, whatever. Then we got into the Rum Diaries, how her and Johnny fell in love over obscure poetry and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sorry if anybody's here for the love story. We're not going to really get into it. But it was a whirlwind romance, even though they both had other partners at the time. I did think she was kind of trying to make it sound like Johnny was a cheater, but she was in the same position. And then she was saying how he like playfully pushed her down on the couch and gave her the whatever that was, the eyebrow raise. So whatever. There really wasn't much to that. But then she started talking about how they would go away to these magical places together. He had so many homes and he had his own island. And she talked about how when Johnny was good, he was the best. He made you feel like you were the center of the world. And she starts giving these quotes, and all I could think, and in the private chat to Nick, I said, are you getting Talented Mr. Ripley vibes? Because in my head, all I'm hearing, and I went and looked up the quote just so I was not going crazy. They said, the thing with Dickie is, it's like the sun shines on you when he looks at you, and it's glorious. And then he forgets about you, and it's very, very cold. When you have his attention, you feel like you're the only person in the world. That's why everybody loves him so much. Literally, that's all I was thinking. Is she was saying, and then he would disappear, and we didn't know what would happen when he would disappear. Very interesting, because I think she almost accidentally was speaking so good of Johnny in different situations. And when she talked about how great he was with his kids, or how he wanted to shield his kids from this or that, I do feel like she did talk a lot better about him than he did about her at all. At all. Yes, people say he drank tea, like a lot of tea. And there was a jar of cocaine. Yeah, of course. The hyperbole was there. The exaggeration was there. I mean, that was there the entire time. They were in this bubble. They weren't doing real life yet. We're not going to even talk about what, if any, in Elaine's questions to try to get around the leading objections, which were just tough. The knife. She thought it was romantic. He collect knives and guns. Also with her dad. It was almost endearing about her dad, how much Johnny loved him and how he was like acting like he had a Southern accent and giving him these great gifts. Very interesting. When she talked about the relationship with Johnny with her family and friends, here's what she said about this monster, about this abusive partner who is a horrible person that she's slinging mud at all day long. He was so kind and generous to my parents. He would give them extravagant gifts that they could never dream of affording. He did anything to make them feel special. He showered my friends with generosity and love. He wanted them to be happy and feel special around him. What a jerk. Then Johnny offered to buy her a horse. And this was one of multiple gifts that she says she rejected. And, because it was just too much, I couldn't possibly take that from him. Then Johnny called her dad and bought it anyway, which I think is going to be connected to him being overbearing and overpowering and doing what he wanted even when she didn't want him to. It was intense when we were in love. Then he would disappear. Again, Talented Mr. Ripley vibes. Then we got into the roles and the way she would dress. Oh, 6,500 people in the chat. That's awesome. That's a new record for us. Maybe we'll hit 7K tonight. The dress and the different roles and how he would call her a whore and those roles were for dirty whores. And that's what you're going to wear, kid. I did think the kid thing was a little bit weird. I know she referenced that it was about the movie, that she was the dream and he called her and said, you're the dream, kid. You got the role. But he would get mad about the roles, which to me, I mean, I guess I can understand. I've had friends that, especially in like high school days, that would get crazy mad at their girlfriends for wearing certain things or doing certain things. So I understand that and I get that, but it just seems weird for somebody that's been in Hollywood his whole life to do that. But maybe it is. Maybe it's true. Again, I don't think that makes him abusive, but maybe it is an indication of that. So that's something I guess I can believe, even though I did see on Instagram like he had a tattoo of her wearing something risque, which I don't think you would do that if you didn't want people to see her in something risque, but what do I know? He threw a glass at her. It didn't hit her, but it almost did. He would name call all the time. He loved to smash up a place. And then she almost started crying when she told a story about how she felt pretty in a dress. And he said, the whole world saw that kid. I hope that's how you want them to remember you. And he made her feel so horrible about a dress that she felt so pretty in. I'm not going to try to understand that I know what that's like, but I don't know. That's tough. That's tough for me. I'm pretty callous as it is. We talked about Enneagram and my number and stuff. Like I'm not high in emotion or empathy. I have to work on that. I try to be empathetic and sympathetic. And it is something I've been working on, but just once I start going a certain way on somebody, it's hard for me to come back. And I really open mind wanted to hear what and how she was going to say what she was going to say. And I was turned off pretty quickly. It's tough. But then we finally get into the physical violence, which is really what I wanted to hear her talk about. 6990. We're going to hit 7K tonight. This is fun, guys. Thanks for telling your friends. So the first time we started talking about the physicality, it changed her life, even though it felt insignificant. Again, that qualification that just makes no sense. I know it sounds insignificant, but it changed my life. Hyperbole. That's what I call that. He was drinking. There was a jar of cocaine on the table. She asked what a tattoo meant. She laughed at his answer, and he slapped her across the face. And he said, "You think that's funny, you little expletive?" And then he slapped her again. She sat on the floor and didn't notice how dirty it was. I sat there and I thought, I know we couldn't come back from this. I know you can't hit a woman, which Nick Rakita thinks that really opens the door to bringing in the fact that she's been accused of hitting a woman in a same-sex relationship she was in. I don't know if that alone does it, but I definitely think it's another piece of evidence that shows that door's been kicked wide open. I didn't want to leave him. Then I saw him start crying and he apologized. I didn't say anything. We've all seen the health class videos. Not me. I'm not sure what health class videos she was referencing, but she didn't say anything. He said he would never do it again. He apologized, gifts, wine, etc., which again plays right into Dr. Hughes, which again, if I felt like Amber Heard's story was more believable, I do think it lined up with a lot of what Dr. Hughes said. And I think even though Dr. Hughes may have been annoying to some or seemed very biased, I don't think they crushed her on cross. So I really think Amber Heard's lawyers can use that as a positive and connect it to what Amber Heard said and felt. Then we got into a lot of accusations about her being unfaithful. And again, he hit her and she said, "You hit me, you just hit me." Then she tried to get a picture into evidence, which she didn't end up getting, which I thought was interesting, because she basically could not say that this was the picture after he hit her, which is exactly what her lawyers were trying to do, which again, I just don't like that. I don't like that. It feels like dirty pool. He slapped me, he beat me. Let's enter this picture into evidence now, where your face is red or you have a bruise. Okay, so when was this picture? I'm not really sure. There were so many instances. I don't know when that picture was taken. It's like, then you can't put that picture in while you're telling a story that he just hit you if you didn't take it after then. Because we all know you tried to document this stuff. And we'll get to the bruise, which was one of the early super chat questions. I found something very interesting. She said, he hit me in the face and it felt like my lip went into my teeth and it was bleeding. And then he grabbed me, and this bruise that I took a picture of and sent to my mom was where he grabbed me. That was where it was bruised. Yet I can see your lips and I can see your face. I don't see any redness. I don't see any bruising. I don't see any blood. I don't see any scarring. That's what I'd be looking for, especially because she even references rings, because I think that's because of you all out there referencing it, because of social media. Everybody's saying if he beat you all the time and he had these rings, and she said, oh yeah, it did hurt even worse because he had these rings. But again, you were all saying it, and the way I took it is because we would see marks if that was the case, and he beat her with rings. Very interesting to me. He also said he would cut off his hand before he'd abuse her. She took him up at least partially to one finger. More abuse, grabbed her by the hair, by the arm, would smash her into things, slap her, hold her down, and slap her multiple times in a row. So here's my problem. She gave us a timeline and would explain the abuse one after the other. And we're supposed to believe that she starts recording and taking pictures of a bruise on her arm. And then after that, he's holding her down and beating her in the face, but she doesn't stop and take a picture of any of those injuries. Now, not reporting them. I see a lot of people talking about that. Yes, I am a lawyer okay, we have 8,000 people in here. So maybe I should take a time out and say, I'm a personal injury lawyer in Tampa Bay, Florida. And I've been following the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case and breaking it down every night in these lives. I give a recap in the beginning of the show and I answer questions at the end. Yes, I am a real lawyer, even though a lot of people I'm sure in here are going to say, I don't look like one. And yes, I have a man bun tonight like Johnny Depp. So hopefully that answers a lot of your questions if you're new here. And if you are new, please hit the subscribe button because it's fun. And we get to have these conversations together. And we have a lot of fun on this channel. So thank you for being here. And if you leave and don't subscribe, hit the like button at least on your way out. Okay, sorry for that. We are 6 away from hitting 8K in the video, which is awesome. Okay, where were we? So yeah, a lot of people in here saying she didn't report it. She didn't go to the hospital. I get it. But a lot of victims don't. A lot of victims don't report it. A lot of victims don't go to the hospital. Okay, I get that. But if you're the type of victim, which I'm fine with, and I think it's a good thing, and after car accidents or slip and fall cases or wrongful death cases or med mal cases, when we have clients, we want to get pictures of that stuff. Some people think, oh, you must be litigious if you take a picture. It's like, or they're going to change the evidence or get rid of the evidence so you can never prove it and you can never get justice. So I get why victims take pictures. So she, who is someone who is documenting this with videos and pictures, after she starts documenting it, we don't have any pictures or videos of the busted lip or the bleeding nose that she said happened when he hit her in the face again. He constantly wanted her to admit affairs, would constantly be on the coke and alcohol. She talked about how he was holding a dog out of a window and they were all really scared he was going to drop it. Again, not sure how that's relevant. Jack Hitty has said 10K tonight. I don't know about that. That would be wild. But 8K is a lot. I'm pretty excited about that, in case you can't tell. Then she just went to hang out after condemning for Johnny Depp for 3 hours on the stand for his drug and alcohol abuse. But she just wanted to go with her friends and do some of the laughy, happy drugs. So they went to a fancy trailer park and did MDMA and shrooms and all that. And Johnny Depp was there. And of course, he got jealous again and he beat her and he beat another girl that was there. And nobody did anything, just like nobody did anything in the car because they don't want to ruffle Johnny Depp's feathers. I am hoping that she has a line of witnesses that are going to come say this stuff and are going to come and agree with her, because Johnny Depp had a line of witnesses who said this is not how he is at all. Multiple times, Johnny grabbed women by the wrist and said, do you know what kind of pressure it takes to break a wrist? He must love to put pressure on wrists and try to break wrists. That's what it sounds like to her. She used a lot of expletives. At the beginning, she was trying to kind of hide some of them, and then she just kind of let them fly, especially when she was quoting Johnny. Then she got into baby girl, you saved my life. It may seem silly, but she had hope that this man twice her age would be like some of the other rock stars who got sober for the rest of their life, which again is good. And I hate to be like sarcastic about this stuff, right? I hate to, because I literally represent victims for a living. So I hate to belittle some of this, but I just was having trouble buying it. The way that she is saying it. I have heard her voice in recordings and seen her words in text messages. I've also seen Johnny's. And yet I was able to buy his direct examination. So I don't know why. Tell me why. I have had clients use hyperbole like that. I know this sounds silly. I say, no, don't say that. Don't patronize the jury. Just say the truth. Just say the truth. It's tough for me. And I'm sure I'm going to get hate in the chat, and I get it. And if you guys bought what she said, I get it, because I'd be annoyed at me too. If I was listening to her and I was picking up what she was putting down, it was a heartfelt and heart-wrenching and terrible story of an abused wife who nobody believes now, and Hollywood's against her, and she literally has all the power and money in the world against her. So if you do, I understand. I totally get that, and I understand why you disagree with me, and I'm still happy to talk to you in the chat and answer your questions. So don't think you got to leave if you believed everything Amber Heard said and you disagreed with everything Johnny Depp said. That's cool, and we can still talk and talk about this case. But I came into this case a little bit different than most cases. I like to look into what happens pre-trial so I can explain to you all why this evidence came in, why it didn't. This case I did purposely look at nothing outside of trial. I wanted to just judge it off of the evidence. I didn't look at the UK trial. I didn't look at any of the motions, nothing. So that's how I came into this, and that's what I'm basing it off of. Okay? So I just want to, that little caveat. So then they're on the flight, I think. Oh, okay, here we go. Okay. I really wanted to get sober. I don't want him to do drugs. I don't want him to do alcohol, or I don't want him to drink alcohol, right? That's awesome. And I think that every spouse should do that if their significant other suffers with drug or alcohol abuse. I think that probably doesn't help if you do it in front of them, which we all know from all the other testimony that Amber Heard did. And I think she'll admit it. And we saw it with her own words in some of the medical notes. And you know what you definitely don't do? Instead of just doing it in front of them, the first and last time I felt like it was a good idea to do drugs with Johnny. And this was after she was so frustrated with his drug and alcohol abuse. Yet she decides like it's a good idea to do drugs with him. As stupid as it sounds, once again, qualifying her terrible decision. And it does sound stupid because if you're a supportive spouse, you probably don't want to do the drugs and alcohol with your spouse that you know he doesn't want to do and he wants to keep from his children, and you don't want him to do it. Tough look, really tough look. He grabbed the flight attendant, again, more wrist breaking. He shoves me, accuses me of being into the flight attendant. We've kind of heard this story before. More physical abuse, hits her in the face. One of the things that when he hits her in the face and she's bleeding, somebody sees her bleeding. She goes into the bathroom, doesn't know that she's bleeding. How many people, I'm not going to even say women, like me included, how many people go in the bathroom after getting hit in the face and don't look in the mirror? Right? Like, come on. If I just got hit in the face, I'm looking in the mirror being like, holy crap, am I bleeding? What's going on? Right? Check my teeth, make sure they're all there. Yet she goes into the bathroom, comes out, and has to have somebody else tell her that she's bleeding. Or is that just to dramatize the story? Speaking of dramatizing things and over-exaggerating things, she said she simplifies things and minimizes things and does not exaggerate, does not blow things up. This is important because we've heard so much evidence. We have to balance it and weigh it and see what's credible and what lines up with all the other evidence. We have to. Then the yacht story where she goes on, Johnny loses it, and she takes his kids and leaves the yacht. And basically that's the end of my notes for today. 8,900 people here. That's awesome. Maybe we'll hit 9K because now is the fun part. Now is where we get to the questions, where the analysis really digs into what everybody out there is watching. And I always say, and for those of you that are new as well, the chat is representative of the jury. Are you all perfect? No. Will you all agree? No. Do you all have the same experiences? No. Do you have the same background? No. Do you have the same beliefs? No. That's exactly why I like getting your opinion. And I've just been reminded not to forget the Mega Pint giveaway, which I'm not going to forget. I'm going to do it right now. So here are my favorite answers. These are not the winners. I apologize, but here are my favorite answers that I thought was really funny. Leslie Ann Hamilton, H2O with a splash of justice. The question was, what am I always drinking like now? What's always in my Mega Pint? The question was, what two things? Leslie Ann Hamilton, H2O with a splash of justice. Patricia H., This is my favorite one, potentially. Top secret iced coffee concoction. And ain't that the truth? I've got my own little mix that I do, which if you've been following us forever on Instagram, you may have seen it. Lastly, the other one I liked, hot pick, 1101. Water. You have the alcohol behind you, but you're not a drinker. Also true. But Christian Keeley, Keightley, send us your address and we will send you a lawyer you know mega pint. The randomly selected, it wasn't my favorite, it was the randomly selected correct answer was water or coffee. Those are the two things I'm always drinking. So that was fun. People are saying you're on fire tonight, lots of energy. 8,600 people, pretty cool. I mean, that's pretty crazy that many people are coming in here to talk about that with us. So that's fun. Okay, another question will be on the community page tomorrow, so make sure you subscribe and check out our community page because you can win another piece of merch. I know at least one of the things we're giving away is our actual law firm, TST injury lawyers, which you cannot buy. They're not on the merch site, so that's why we're going to give them away as part of our 50K giveaway. But let's get to the questions now. Industry Rajon, I saw this earlier on. How effective/ineffective was the cross in your opinion? I feel like he missed out on so many opportunities and hurt JD's case. I agree with you. I did not think it was nearly as effective as it could have been. And I feel like he did miss out on a ton, which I broke down in detail. And I'm sure you were here for it. Again, Industry Rajon, AH equals classic BPD today. BPD's split between idealizing and devaluing others. For those of you who don't know, Industry Rajon does have a background in, I don't remember if it's psychology or psychiatry. Inauthentic, incongruent emotional expression. I hope the jury caught on, especially after the cross of Dr. H. I agree with you. The cross of Dr. H was not the best, but it's going to be up to the jury whether they believe or disbelieve Amber. And I think a big part of this case is going to be them comparing Johnny and Amber's testimony. Parks White. How believable is it that a victim of DV would get her abuser a sharp knife as a gift? One man's opinion, this guy, not believable, not something I would do. If I also had a family member I cared about that dealt with alcohol or substance abuse, I would not do it in front of them or with them. Sherry Qualls. Will Amber Heard's prior domestic abuse arrest come into the trial, and what do you think about Depp's lawyer's cross-exam? We got into the cross-exam. I think it should come in. And the reason I think it should come in is because in the interest of justice, I believe the jury has a right to know that. I don't always, because the rules of evidence would usually keep something like this out. And if nobody else referenced like Johnny, and I think that's why Johnny's team very smartly continues to reference that he has no history of domestic violence. In 50 years of life, nobody's ever accused him of beating somebody. And he keeps saying that because he knows Amber Heard can't say that. Yet, it seems like they keep saying it. And it seems like that's something that her doctor took into account when giving her evaluation. So I think in the interest of justice, it needs to come in because while I'm okay with certain rules of evidence, keeping things outside the purview of the jury, if it's relevant and now needs to correct a wrong and make a lie a truth, it needs to come in, my opinion. And none of this is legal advice for those of you who are new. Magical Mary. Best was when she wiped fake tears off her face. I hate to call fake tears. I hate to. I didn't do it in the Rittenhouse trial when some people said those were fake tears because I don't know. And I'm hesitant to call Amber Heard's tears fake. I really am. I just find a lot of what she said unbelievable, which I think she does too, which is why she kept qualifying it. I could not believe a single word coming from her mouth. Snake regards from Singapore. Thank you, Andrea. Do you think she was wearing an earpiece? Susie said. A lot of people asked this. I do not think she was wearing an earpiece. Amelia J. Do you think Amber was just performing today? How would the jury stay away from news and social media next week? I just can't even begin to think about that. Do I think she was performing? I think she was telling her story and her narrative the best way she can. It seemed a little coached to me, yes. I have no clue how they can keep this jury away. I think the judge should try to put the fear of God in them and say, I'm going to question each one of you individually when you get back to see if you looked at everything. And if you did, and we don't have enough jurors, we're going to have to start this entire trial all over again. I would give them a very stern speech before they left. That's about as good as you can do. And I would ask for that if I'm a lawyer. You're allowed to do stuff like that as a lawyer. Ask the judge to do things like that. And again, then if they're mad at anybody, it's the judge, not the lawyers. 8,600 people. We got really close to 9,000. That was awesome. Please subscribe if you haven't already, because most of you watching are not subscribers. So I would love to have you in on future videos as well. The doctor still didn't admit that men can be abused by women. Only women abuse women and men get abused by scout leaders, or is it just me that heard that? Absolutely. That's the big problem. That's what she said, and it's just unbelievable and not factual. Nicole Davies, Popcorn Planet, another channel, have her old neighbor on their channel. She said she gets the same bruise from the pool door. Ain't that interesting? My wife has in our old house with our old bed, had a constant bruise on her thigh because of the part of the bed that would stick out as she would walk to her side of the bed and back. She would continuously hit her leg on the same spot. So I buy it, Nicole. Matt Todd, could Johnny face legal issues for him admitting using illegal drugs? Very unlikely. I mean, theoretically, if it's not beyond the statute, sure, they could use his sworn statement as criminal evidence. Sarah Shamlin, I minimize situations because she wants to be a tough girl and doesn't want to cause drama, but writes an op-ed. 100%. We got to call out inconsistencies. We have to. Give me some of Johnny's inconsistencies too. Let's not be biased. Give me some of Johnny's. Drug, alcohol abuse, yes. Had problems, yes. Said nasty things to her, yes. But where are his inconsistencies? I want to hear some of them. I do want to hear some of them. And if I don't get to them in the chat today, as I always say, I go back and look at all the chats and the comments later. Comment below if you see inconsistencies for Johnny. Let me know, and we will talk about them in a future video. Sarah, again, by showing the text exchange between JD and Amber Heard, didn't they prove JD uses words like the B word, the C word, his everyday language and not in anger? Yes, and if you notice, Elaine, who's been swearing throughout the trial with no problem, decided not to read the end of the text and acted like she was protecting the jury's ears at this point, but she didn't read it. And I think it's for your exact reason. You picked up on that because you would be a smart juror. That's why you all represent the jury. I guarantee somebody on the jury picked up on that as well. Max Sauce. Was it strange the expert needed her notes yesterday? The expert seemed very biased. She got sassy on cross, which I don't think will play well with the jury. She got sassy when they called her Dr. Curry. I retweeted a clip of that. Please go look at it. It is hilarious how offended she got to ever be called Dr. Curry, not once, but twice by Elaine. It's not unusual to reference your notes. What's unusual is she kept saying, like, this isn't a memory test. I wish I could reference my notes. You get your cheat sheet. Why can't I get my cheat sheet? That was a little weird to me, but that she referenced notes, big deal. I don't think that's that big of a deal. She made it a big deal. I would have been like, yeah, here are my notes. Give them to opposing counsel. You know that's happening. Hey, Pete, what's up, Ozzy? Why is there no trial on Fridays? It's just the judicial schedule. That the judge sometimes schedules it like that. Down here in Florida, federal court, that's always how it is. Monday through Thursday, state court, we usually go on Fridays. And they're missing next week for a judicial conference for the judge. Mr. RN, can Depp's attorney go back and ask more questions to Hughes? Nope, she is done. Unless we hit 9,000, that's fun. Unless she is called in the counterclaim rebuttal, which I talked about a little bit on Rakita's channel. She could have a rebuttal, but specifically limited to the counterclaim. So there's an outside chance they could, but very unlikely. I'll just put it that way. MB Geralds, could he have been reading the jury? Perhaps they appear disinterested and fed up with the line of questioning. I assume this is during the cross of the expert. Sure, it could be. We're not there. We can't see the faces of the jurors. That's one of the problems. Marcy, why was Amber Heard allowed to use text between her and her deceased mother? Does the dead man statute not apply? So I don't know what you mean by the dead man statute, but there is a dead man exception to hearsay. And you're allowed to get into hearsay if the witness is unavailable because of death. So some can get in like that, but there are still some that can't get in based on that. As you saw, some were actually kept out. Rachel Froelich, who decides who goes up for cross? He seemed nervous, in my opinion, was not the guy for the job. I think he's like a senior litigation partner, so he shouldn't have been nervous. He didn't really seem nervous to me as much as he seemed to easily give up on things. Which sometimes I go too far the other way. We're all beat a dead horse. And I've had to rein that back over trials. When something good is happening, I keep hitting it. Or if I want to get in that domestic violence, I'm going to make sure I get it in. I'm going to try 15 different ways once the judge says the door's open. But the team decides, the whole team together decides, okay, you're going to take this witness, you're going to take that one, I'm going to take this witness, so we can prep for our witnesses and be ready for our witnesses and focused in on our witnesses. It's not last minute. It's not like, hey, Johnny, you take this one. Jack, you take this one. Joe, you take this one. Sarah, you take this one. Camille, you take this one. No, this is planned well ahead of time. Michael Spezial. Did you feel the gradients in her affect, knowing her direct testimony in advance, but perfectly cueing from smiling to crying, came off as acting? Her emotions were always on point with what she was saying. Yes, even if the facts of what she was saying didn't make sense, like why you'd buy them a knife or why you took a picture of the bruise on your arm, but not your bloody lip or your bloody nose. Max Sauce. Also, why did Amber Heard say she didn't realize violence and alcohol correlate when she says her father was an alcoholic who abused her? Did she testify to that? Because I didn't hear her actually testify to that. Dolly, Amber's testimony, I was lost, not consistent. Is there a prosecutor on Johnny Depp's team? Maybe in JD's team will be more pressing. Also, Amber Heard hasn't given all the texts. We've talked about all the texts a million times. If the court ordered her to give something, we wouldn't be having this trial if she didn't give it, or she'd be held in contempt. I don't know for a fact that there's a former prosecutor on the team, but I would be willing to bet so many trial lawyers on the criminal defense and the civil side were former prosecutors. So I'd be willing to bet that there's a former prosecutor on his team. Baby Cakes 420. She fell through a glass table and zero cuts and pictures. I'm with you. We have to point out those inconsistencies, especially when she has certain pictures of injuries. Now, if she had none and she said, I never documented it, then fine. But if you were someone who documented it, why not document the worst injuries? Do they have another chances from Jed52? Do they have another chance to bring up Amber Heard's domestic violence arrest on her own cross? They're going to have 100 more chances. Every witness that gets up there, I'm trying to get it in if the judge has already indicated to me that the door's been open. Now, hopefully she didn't say that the door has only been open through Dr. Hughes, but absolutely, I'm trying to get that in all over the place because I think that's huge in this case. You guys let me know, how huge do you think that domestic violence, that prior DV would be? Which, I don't know, on a scale of 1 to 10, let me know. 1 being not such a big deal, 10 being huge. Diana C. Is there a reason Depp's attorneys aren't fighting harder for him? Something seems off with them, like they aren't too worried. I think they're fighting hard. It's a long trial. It's a laborious trial. It's hard. It's a lot of work. I think they're fighting hard for him. I don't think they're like going easy or anything. One of those mums. I found Amber Heard to be inauthentic and dishonest. And this is good. This helps me. I like to know what you guys think and see and feel because you're not trial lawyers. Most of you, we do have some trial lawyers in here, like Devin, I believe, is one. That watches this. So let me know, because I want to know what lay people that haven't seen 100 trials, I want to know what you guys think and what you guys see. 4D modding. Amber has told so many lies at this stage. She spent the last days writing down the story so she could follow it herself. Lies plus lies equal Amber Heard. Walter Jara. Sup, man? What you think of Hughes' cross? I thought it was weak. I really thought it was weak. And I feel like he's the guy they brought in late to handle the experts. He's supposed to be the big shot. I thought it was weak. I thought there was so much material. I would have loved to cross her. Because sometimes we have experts that I cross and we can only get a couple points out of them. They're professional witnesses. Sometimes it's you've been paid millions by this defense team, which is always fun. But when I have an expert that what they're saying is so disingenuous and so outlandish that nobody's going to buy it. Like somebody who went to the hospital the day before a car accident, had no back pain, gets smashed in a T-bone accident and ends up having a fusion in their lower back. And they say, well, it could have been pre-existing. It's like, sure, okay. But then you just get the jury to roll their eyes. And I would have done that a lot with Dr. Hughes. River's Edge Films. What do you think of how torn Amber Heard seemed when saying he was the love of her life, and in 10 seconds, she was blank again with no emotion carry over like a scene change? I agree. I thought she almost went too far in talking about how great Johnny is and how they fell in love and how great he was with his kids and how he was the love of her life. And in case you don't remember how the talented Mr. Ripley ended, spoiler alert here, Matt Damon, who was obsessed with Dickie, When Dickie looked at you, the sun was shining on you, and then it's a cold, dark land when he looks away. That's when he was having the conversation with the girlfriend. And then he kills Dickie because Dickie looks away from him. So she was saying, when Johnny Depp looks at me, it's the greatest thing. The love is so intense. But then when he leaves or looks away and disappears, like she literally said, I'm not going to connect the dot. We're in Hollywood here, right? I mean, I know we're in Virginia, but it feels like Hollywood. Katie, I agree with what you said on Rakita. You don't need to apologize at all. I just don't want to be insensitive and be a jerk. I do my best not to be a jerk. I'll stand by my opinions always, and what I believe and what I think is true and right. I will always stand by that, but I don't want to be a jerk. There's a way to say things the right way. Rebecca Loxley, thank you so much for the super sticker. Rivers Edge Films. AH's dad went to jail for illegal dogfighting. Wow. Again, something I wouldn't know because I haven't really kept track of the outside stuff. 9,500 people are here and hopefully all liking and subscribing. Team, let's get to 10K tonight. I will stick around if we're close to try to get to 10K and just keep answering questions. Industry Rajan. Can Johnny Depp's team recoup botched cross during rebuttal? Can they recall anyone they want on rebuttal? If so, maybe it's better to take Hughes down then at the end. They have to keep them subject to their subpoena and be sequestered unless it's an expert like Dr. Curry can sit in during Dr. Hughes' testimony. I think they're going to call Dr. Curry and hopefully rehab it there. But we're getting on a time crunch here. Because strategically speaking, if I'm Amber Heard's team, I'm going to make sure her case of Chiefs takes long enough to where I'm not giving Johnny very much time for rebuttal. Google user, UK trial, she indicated her dad slapped her, yet in this trial, she said JD was the first slap. Isn't that problematic? I don't know if she said JD was the first slap, but I know what you're referencing when she said the first time he physically abused me. I think she was just saying between them, but I definitely did not hear her say her dad abused her, which I think is totally inconsistent with what everything else we have. I don't know why she would change that part of the story. I can't think of a strategic reason why you would change that part of the story. Because her expert even said somebody who's been physically abused as a child is more likely to be an abuse victim later. Rhonda L. My thoughts are maybe Amber Heard setting the scene for hopefully a movie out of all this. I don't think she's going to like the script of the movie, if I had to guess. Sonia Hart, talented Mr. Ripley vibes minus the talent. LOL. Touche. Jay Davis, thank you for the super sticker. Odetta Garcia, Odette is back. I just see the swan princess in my head whenever I see her name. It sounds like a mistress wanting more and exploited him with threats of pictures, and she says, he says. That's one way to look at it for sure. Zachary's mama. If anything comes out of this whole case, it'll be they both did horrible things to each other and they both are horrible people, crazy toxic relationship. And this would have been Zachary's mama. This would have been my strategy if I represented Amber Heard. They both are rough. They both made mistakes. They both hit each other at different times. They both verbally abused each other at different times. But all of that being said, and Amber Heard has made her mistakes, she did feel like she was a victim of domestic violence. That would have been my simple defense is what I'm calling it the whole time. I would not have built up this burden. They have created a burden of proving Johnny Depp is an abusive monster now. They really have. That's problematic. You don't ever want to build up burdens for yourself. The civil justice system's hard enough. Carrie Barton, boo-hoo, Amber Heard, bad acting job. And each time she was hit, she didn't feel it. That was weird too, Sunny Days. She's like, it didn't hurt that bad. I didn't feel it that much. ND 2020, I think Cross was effective. Okay, good, different opinion. So maybe a juror thought that way. That's why I like to hear. If you guys tell me I saw it differently, try to get 9 people in a room and agree where they want to go for dinner. It's unlikely. He was able to point out that she wasn't doing the test properly. I agree. If he went too hard, it would be off-putting. I assume he would bring Curry back. Okay, great points. Miss Mickmel, thank you. Peter, I am a lawyer, believe it or not. Website is tragoslaw.com if you want to check out any credentials or see my CV. Warren, still reeling from disappointment about today's cross, trying to comfort myself. Perhaps there's more amazing calculated strategy, 2 plans. Any thoughts on that? Huge misstep, especially with Amber's past DV arrest. I think they can recoup. I don't think it was like they lost over that cross. If anything else, I just think it was missed opportunity, not botched, not blown the case. So hopefully that comforts you a little bit. That's what you're looking for. Kelsey, why wasn't the emotional/verbal abuse admitted to by Depp qualify as not satisfying defamation element of statement must be false? Did she only say physical abuse in the article, so they have to show that? I think it's a fact question for the jury. What the definition of abuse is, how she said it in the article, if verbal's enough, if verbal can turn into intimidation and turn into sexual violence like the expert said. That's really what I think it's going to come down to. It's a question for the jury to decide. King, there is a video of her putting the dog outside the car window like she accused Johnny of. I wish I could say that would surprise me. I really, really wish I could say that. Kelly DeBetts, Curry regarding histrionic equals impressionistic speech, very flowery, very enthusiastic, but nothing's really being said. Okay, that's interesting because I don't know everything about those diagnostics. I know a lot about PTSD. I deal with that a lot, not with the borderline personality disorder and histrionic. I don't deal a lot with that. So it's interesting. I'm learning a lot about it in this case, which is funny because when you're a lawyer on cases, you learn so much about the content of your case. It's fun. Jennifer Tucker, I'm picking up what she's putting down. Takes one to know one. I was one. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or a cut, but maybe you'll let me know in a future comment. Lotus, it didn't really seem like she was actually experiencing the feeling she was trying to portray to the jury. It felt very fake. I'm going to go so far to say it was totally fake, but it did kind of feel like there was a disconnect between what she was saying and what she was feeling. Look, I'm traumatized. This is Carol Peterson. I'm traumatized and she was acting. She is so not a victim. Her acting was so bad. She has no clue what it looks or feels like to be truly traumatized, and the rest of the crap rings fake bruises. Oh, I glossed over. I didn't even mention the cavity search. How weird was that? That's like, didn't make any sense that Johnny Depp would violate her to search for cavity when he is also a drug user, right? And I don't know about any of you out there, and maybe you have because we all live different lives. There's 10,000 of us in here tonight, almost. We haven't crossed that mark yet. I have been watching. But have any of you had to force your wife to spread her legs, or your partner, your husband, maybe the cheeks, to search his cavity to see if he was hiding cocaine? That's weird. And I don't think that's just something you do to anybody. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe there's a reason he's jealous. Maybe there's a reason that he does this cavity search, but neither here nor there. If you were really hard on helping him be sober and stop drugs and alcohol, why would he think you're hiding drugs to use when you guys are doing drugs together? It just doesn't compute to me. I'm not saying it's impossible. It just doesn't compute. 9,993 people in here. 7 more people is what we need. Kathy, I've been SA, and they use the acronyms because I guess YouTube doesn't like those words, so I guess I'll stop saying them, although it's a little late now. And physically abused. I had to testify in court. I would never have said what she did. My goal was to live, not remember the carpet was dirty. It's ridiculous. You know what? I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say the same exact thing. Do you know what I said when I was on the stand? And I've seen it in cases. I was afraid for my life. I got out of there and never came back, especially if it's to the extent Amber Heard's saying. Now, I do know people that have been hit and try to stay in the relationships, but usually to the extent with the bottle and the violations, 10,000, we hit it. Awesome. Awesome. You guys rock. I'm going to get to all these questions tonight. I'm with you, Kathy, and thank you for sharing. And I'm sorry that you had to go through that, but I appreciate your perspective and sharing it with us. Dolly, if I was abused, I would take images of it, save it somewhere. All the time she said she went to a therapist and told them of abuse, why didn't they report it? Because it seems like every time she reported abuse, it was way in the past. I will wear that law firm shirt around Tampa Bay if I get one. Courtney Cartwright, I think we're going to have to save this name because you're speaking my language. A lot of people from Tampa in the chat, which is amazing. So much fun. Maybe I'll actually see people around. My wife keeps joking with me that sometime soon somebody's going to say, hey, I recognize you from YouTube. It's never happened. And it would be hilarious if it did. Liliane Izawa. What happens to Amber Heard's lawsuit if she loses this one? Does the outcome of this trial affect her lawsuit? It's all going to be decided at the same time. Her counterclaim is attached and what we call in the law inextricably intertwined to Johnny Depp's complaint. So they're going to decide all of it in this trial. Magnolia Girl. It keeps coming up that Johnny Depp said that he cut off his finger. Is that going to become a problem for Johnny? Well, that's what all the records say. And that's what some recordings say. So I understand why they're saying it, but he and other people talked about how it was, more likely Amber. But again, he doesn't have to prove that she cut off his finger to win this case. I think the doubt and that seed has been planted in the jury that she's the abuser. And that's just one of the many things he put before them to show that she was abusive. So he doesn't have to prove that by any burden. Purple Candy. I don't believe her one bit. She is just acting. I think that's a common sentiment. Thank you, Rhonda L. Thank you, Torex. Odetta, love the fish on your shirt. Thank you. It's here too. Will Jolson, thank you so much. The most people by far we've ever had in a live. So this is crazy and fun. And I hope you're all subscribing because I want you to stick around and be in more. This is so fun. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Monica T, if you were Amber Heard's lawyers, what advice would you give her after today's progress? So I can't, if you're a lawyer, you can't really say, hey, say it more like this or say it like that. The time for prep is over at this point. You can't really coach her anymore about what's coming or how she did or anything like that. They can't talk about her testimony now. Now, are they abiding by those rules? I hope they are. But I would tell her to try to stick more to the facts, try to feel what she's saying more, be in the moment. It's okay to cry, I would say, because she really hasn't done much of that, I think. But I don't know. I think it's tough. It's tough. Gina Erickson, just wanted to say I've loved your unbiased analysis. And thank you. And I try to be, but I'm starting to feel like, am I biased now? Because the way I am feeling about Amber Heard's testimony is that it was pretty rough. And so I don't want to slide to a biased side. So I'm sure people are going to let me know and call me biased in this. But again, I thought Dr. Hughes won the battle of cross-examination. So that makes me feel like I'm still sane because I'm able to see that. And my judgment is not clouded, but I'm having trouble with Amber's testimony. Thanks for these lives. You rock. Did you see even one tear squeeze out of her eyes today? I didn't see one. Terrible acting. I know Nate, the lawyer, and Andrea had a bet, and somebody posted a picture where it looked like there was a tear, but I didn't notice any, just like you when I was watching it live. Sybil, thanks for making room for Amber Heard believers. 100% there will always be room for you on my channel, regardless of what anybody else says on the channel. I can't control what everybody says, but I want to hear your opinion, your side too. I always default to believing the victim, but she shows lots of signs of dishonesty. Jury only has to believe one thing for her to win, though, right? Yes. They just have to believe that she believes she is a victim of this abusive domestic violence, I think including physical because of what her statements were. That's all they have to believe. She can be an abuser and also, in my opinion, okay, legally speaking, I'm not talking about psychologically speaking or in a mental health. I realize that even her doctor said there's no such thing as mutual abuse. That's fine. What I'm talking about is legally speaking, you can be an abuser and you can be a victim because there are people that go to jail for being abusers that are victims. It happens. So yes, you are right. She can still win on that, but I'm having trouble like you believing what she's saying this far. Thanks again, Rhonda L. Backs out the box. Please stream with Emily Baker instead of Eagle Lord Nick. Nick's cool. I mean, he's always been nice to me. I take people at face value or for Nick, nose value. See, I don't think he would get mad about that. I hope, because he knows I'm joking. I don't have a problem with him. I like him. People say stuff about him, I guess. I don't know. I like him. I think he's a nice guy. I've never had an issue with him. I haven't watched every video that he's done. Emily seems really cool too. I was on Legal Bites and she popped in and she was funny and cool and spicy. She's never sent me a link. I would be happy to do a video with her. She's a big shot and I get that. I don't want to impose on people and say, oh, hey, let me come on your channel when you're a big shot like that and you do it for a living and I'm just kind of doing it for fun because I'm never going to stop being a trial lawyer. I love it. I will be a plaintiff's personal injury lawyer forever. YouTube's fun and I'm spending more time on it than I expected. But so I don't want to, impose on people that have big channels. But if they invite me, I'm there. I've never said no to somebody that's asked me, a lawyer that does this type of stuff like I do. I've never said no to going on their stream or having them on mine. Lapaloozy, Dr. Curry said they will use a lot of flowery words with no real substance. You're right, and you're the second person to say that. Patty Bilsma, I was waiting for Amazon to show up with a case of tissues for her crocodile tears. Not one tissue is used. Why is this being heard in Virginia? The printers and the servers for the Washington Post are in Virginia, where they shot out this op-ed. Therefore, Virginia was one of the appropriate jurisdictions and the one that the plaintiff chose. Mona L., how do you think the male jurors took Hughes' testimony about downplaying the abuse of men as opposed to women? I don't think they're going to like it. I really don't think they're going to like it. Laura, funny how Amber Heard doesn't need her glasses anymore. I agree, but I've made fun of my friends for the same thing where they wear glasses just for show. Even my sister said she would like to do that. Will Jolson, have you seen someone give testimony of traumatic events with all her crying and not need a single tissue or shed a single tear? You think the jury noticed that? I think a lot of you noticed it, which to me is an indication that at least somebody on the jury noticed it. Yes. What is your Twitter? Christopher Stuckey, thank you for asking. I'm going to move your comment. So right here, where it says @Tragos Law, that's my Twitter, my Instagram, my Facebook. Check us out on there. Follow us on there. We do a lot of stuff on there. We have a great kind of team that does social media. And it's a lot of fun, a lot of interaction. We post some short videos and stuff on there as well. So check us out. I noticed Dr. Hughes tried to hide a green folder. I mentioned that. It did seem like the folder that she put in her purse was different, but I hate to be a skeptic. A lot of videos are easily edited, so I don't know, and I don't want to make a big deal about that personally. There's enough to talk about. I think Johnny is still handsome. Love his Dior commercials. Natalia, is AH ever going to testify anytime soon? I'm going to make a prediction that yes, she is going to start testifying today. That was a joke. She did start testifying today. Mimi, a judicial conference like once Dr. Hughes prepared a PowerPoint for. Yes, it sounds a lot like that. Maybe that she's going directly here to there and she's going to give a presentation to this judge. Whoa, a lot of people checking us out on Twitter right now. I think we had like no followers on Twitter before this case started, and now we have more than we used to have. So thanks. That's fun, guys. Hopefully all of you are also subscribed and checking us out on Instagram as well. Jody Van Zwall, how many SA and DV survivors like me in the chat not finding age believable so far? Jody, again, I'm sorry you went through that. Thank you for sharing your experience. Every single one that I've seen in the comments so far is saying, nah, that's not how I would do it, and I know what this is like. Starry Crown. Amber had the no makeup look today. Why? As an attorney, our client's directed to do that. I don't know if she had the no makeup look. I did think it's interesting that she's a sommelier, which there's a lot of talk about wine, and that could, be something referenced later. And she worked in makeup and did makeup on movie sets and stuff. So when we talk more about makeup, and I think Elaine talked about how these other people aren't experts in makeup, she didn't really qualify Amber as an expert, which obviously she couldn't have for the makeup. But I think what I tell my clients, the jury, to how to present themselves in front of a jury, be yourself and dress basically how you dress now. We've had guys that all they do is wear like crew neck t-shirts and jeans. That ain't gonna fly. Put on a button down shirt and dress pants. I don't have every client suit up when they come in, male or female. Dress in your Sunday best, show up, be honest, and it's okay to be emotional. I'm not telling you what emotions to have, but it's okay to be emotional. Okay? That's what I tell my clients. I tell them to not be distracting to the jury. That's all I want. So don't have crazy, hair or shave actually, I was going to say a Fu Manchu mustache, but I actually have had a client do that before, and we had a good result because that's just what he always had. Just don't do anything crazy, right? So if it's a female client and you don't normally have this like bright green eyeshadow and pink lipstick and all this stuff that may be distracting to the jury, just go with a more normal toned down look. It's about as far as I go. I know a lot of people have a lot more thoughts on that than me. Carrie Barton, the judge told Amber before they left that she cannot talk to her lawyers about her testimony. She can talk to her lawyers, just not about her testimony. SS Silent TV Twitch, as a victim of DV with an ex who has BPD, You're basically an expert in this case. I can say what we've been told is the tip of the iceberg. Untreated, it can destroy you on the receiving end. Thank you for your input. Taja Charney, is there a chance that they could throw this whole case out? For example, nobody wins, loses. There's a chance that they both lose. There's not really a chance that they both win, but there's a chance that one of them wins and wins like $1. So there are some crazy endings that could be in store for us. We'll see. Chaz F. It looks like she was performing a script and she did horrible at it. Janie. So far, all the polls by YouTubers I've seen, 90% do not believe Amber. So let's just say that that's representative of the jury. Only one juror is with Amber right now, theoretically speaking. Jennifer, biggest thing for me was her lack of detail in her actions. When everyone has heard the recordings, she just glazed over that info, and they asked her about all of these things. And she's like, yeah, I don't remember which fight this was from. This picture, yeah, there were so many, I don't remember. But she's only describing a handful. So were there too many that she can't remember? Or does she just not remember details like you picked up on? I picked up on that as well. Amber, this is from CJOJ. Amber sounded like she was auditioning for the many acting roles. She will need to pay the settlement and legal fees. Savage. Pamela. How about her talking directly to the jury? JD not looking at her at all, and she's only talking about his money, but not about his personality. Yes, I did think it was very interesting how he was looking down most of the time. I had people reach out to me on Instagram and Twitter and ask me the same thing, and I was going to answer that today, so I'm glad that you brought it up. I don't think it's a bad thing he's looking down. That way, the camera and the jury cannot look to him for reactions and judge him for reactions he may inadvertently have on his face. I think it's, to me, again, somebody who's dealt with victims, it's more normal for you not to want to look your abuser in the eye than to want to stare him down the whole time. So to me, I think it's pretty explainable why Johnny's looking down. But you or other people may think he doesn't want to look at her because, I don't know, he doesn't want to admit what's going on, or it's a negative connotation if he doesn't look at her. I think people could think that as well. We got a lot of questions still left here. Jessica Lee, I think the purpose to go hard on how great JD is to, one, show how charming he is before the behavior switch, and two, make you feel sorry for her. Gotcha. Deborah B. It's not just the prior DV, but the chronic DV witnessed by others that Amber perpetrated on Johnny. Sarah Victoria, thank you. Monica T, thanks for the super sticker. Colleen, Amber asked Johnny how to get better roles, not just sexy roles. Johnny advised choosing better roles in image. She twisted the advice and controlling her clothes. See, Colleen, I don't know this to be true or for a fact, but we're almost to 11,000 people. But I do feel like there are probably bits of truth in what Amber's saying. And this is a good context clue that he's saying, this is what people will remember, kid. Fine. That's really how you want to go out, kid. This context makes sense. But again, so does the jealousy context. So it depends on how the jury sees it. Picket Books. Why couldn't they bring up Tasia? They needed that. I think they're still going to try to. And I think that's something that may still happen in this case. Sujasa. Why did they not sequester the jury? Think about it. If you were on a jury or you were going for jury selection, they told you they were going to sequester you away from your family, your job, your life for 6 weeks, and you were going to be able to talk to anybody or watch TV or go on the internet, would that make you more likely or less likely to want to serve on that jury? Jury sequestration is usually reserved for the most high profile and criminal cases because people's lives are on the line. Not to say that civil cases are not important, but it's a high bar because it's really miserable for the jurors to sequester them. It's not just like a witness being sequestered where they can't talk about the case. The jury is sequestered like that. They can't talk about the case or look things up. Sequestering a jury is putting them in a hotel in the middle of nowhere where they have nothing to deal with. Carol Funk, is the father on the witness list? I don't know. I saw the witness list has like 80 names on it. I did not read all the names. Sarah Shamlin, could Johnny Depp's team be allowing her to talk so much so they can come back and ask her details on cross? Absolutely. Let her dig her own grave. I've said this a million times, and I said it was one of the biggest wins for for Amber Heard's team when Johnny Depp was on the stand, because when you can use his own words against him, that's powerful. And maybe they're going to do the same thing to Amber. Derek, Amber Heard, if the white female version is the white female version of Jussie Smollett, they both have had issues, but only one paid a price and he didn't abuse her. Peggy Wolf, when you get hit by a man, you feel it. Trust me. Judy Dunn, thank you for the super sticker. Hey, Peter, thought it was interesting that Amber Heard said a horse was too extravagant, yet 15 months later, she demanded millions of dollars. Good point. Again, why tell that story? Besides to try to make yourself look good, or I guess try to make Johnny look controlling. Why tell the horse story? Don't get it. Because what if a juror is like you, Dance 415, who's like, oh, really? Really? We're supposed to believe that? Like a lot of tea. Michelle Henry, thank you very much. Miss Puffles, thank you. Mindy T, thank you as well. As a victim myself, Renee says, she is disgusting. Vicky Lund, as a psychiatric expert witness, a psychological assessment has to include an accurate history. If it doesn't, the findings cannot be considered accurate. That's called in the legal field, garbage in, garbage out. So if she didn't tell you that she's had accusations of abuse in the past or give you an accurate medical history, then you're not going to get a good diagnosis at the end. Janie, I think they didn't bring up the DB arrest because charges were dropped and the ex-wife came out and said much ado about nothing. I agree with you. There are some inconsistencies with it, but to say that there's never been any issues with domestic violence or ever been any accusations is opening the door. That's the reason I think, Janie, that it didn't come out in the beginning and in the first place and why they couldn't use it, because it was not reliable evidence. I agree with you. But you can't say things that are factually not true in a trial. At least you shouldn't be able to. Thank you, Gina from Jax. Ubi Rican girl. Why did AH's defense team seem so afraid of Dr. Hughes handing over documents to the court to get a copy? They seemed very nervous for her to do so. I don't know if they felt nervous. She seemed a little more nervous than I would expect. But, I mean, Johnny Depp's team should already have all of that except for maybe some handwritten notes that she made. Maybe I have actually seen a note in a case that was hilarious where the client said, that a-hole lawyer, I don't want to have to deal with him again. I can't deal with him cross-examining me. I'm not showing up if that's who's doing it or something like that, was in an email that they had to turn over to us, which was pretty funny. Max Sauce, cross missed opportunities, but I don't see it as horrible. Better than the Rottenborn yell, in my opinion. We need a timeline. Stanislav Schaefer. At one point, Amber Heard admitted to writing the op-ed on the stand. Doesn't that destroy her defense? No. She still doesn't admit to the title, but more importantly, we all know she wrote it, and we all know she wrote it about Johnny. If it is her opinion and it is not false and she didn't know that it was false, she could still win, even if she wrote it. Very important legal nuance. Kelly DeBetts, Dr. Curry's testimony regarding the histrionic characteristics was exactly the way she testified. A lot of people are agreeing with you. Ninja Omar, speaking of the cavity search, she said Johnny was looking for his cocaine dime bags. I'm sorry, dime bags? Very weird. Debbie O, wasn't able to watch today, so thanks for the recap. I'm glad you came for it. Also enjoyed watching you and your dad regarding the Supreme Court. Congrats on 10K watching. Thank you so much. We're almost to 11K. Debbie, we're at 10,900, which is insane. Noella Rain, sexual abuse she detailed with Glass is super similar to Gone Girl movie, probably irrelevant, but parallels two movies is strange. As an actress, Noella, you can say that it's probably irrelevant, except for you're probably the 25th person to mention that to me. So if a juror thinks the same thing, it could matter. So don't think your opinions don't matter out here. Now, are they going to change the case? No, but 11,000 people are here listening to what your opinions are tonight. 10K, that's like a small town. Congratulations. Thanks, Paisley. TJ Sale. I thought the cross was great. Okay. Showed this clear bias, even if it could have been stronger. Highlighted that she didn't do the test properly after crapping on Curry, and then that she ignored everything in favor of Depp. I agree. And I pointed out even more good points than this. So I do think there was definitely some positives there, but overall I found it to be a negative. But thank you for sharing your insight, because again, jury may agree with you. SH tried to act like she didn't want to drink and drugs. I agree. I think that's so weird when it's all over all the medical records and other people have already testified to it. Star Apple Creative. I have a different opinion on the cross. Dr. Hughes was so obviously biased that it was unnecessary to waste much time on the cross. And I think that That's a good point. And strategically speaking, if they don't think they have enough time to get into everything they want to get into, you do not want to waste it on a witness you may have already think you've won. Hungry Helmet. I've been sucker punched in the face. I have PTSD. Just because I have PTSD doesn't mean I didn't react / feel shock, heat, buzzing, fight, flight. Good point. Lorna Hamilton. I'm wondering why Johnny Depp's lawyer didn't ask why there wasn't a medical exam from having a bottle shoved up your vajayjay. Wouldn't that show lying on her part? I mean, she didn't get a medical exam for anything. So I think that overall is just kind of a question the jury's going to have to answer for themselves. Patty Bilsma. JD's lawyers were shocked at how bad Amber came across, so they could not hold it together. LOL. If she was truly abused, then she would have shed tears. Erica, my dad did that to my mom, but not looking for drugs, looking for signs of cheating. I grew up around serious, chaotic DV, and Amber Heard is a liar. Now, Erica, that's horrible. I'm sorry you had to grow up with that. This is more plausible to me. Now, I don't know how you would be able to tell if somebody cheated or not, but at least that seems more plausible to me, as bad as it is, and not condoning it. And I think that is abuse, but more plausible. Samazon. Do you think male jurors will fall for this act? I don't know if it matters if it's a male or a female as far as falling for the act goes. Infinity Gatekeepers. If you're being abused, get out, leave, male or female. Great advice. Marianne, I so hope Johnny Depp's team really goes after Amber Heard on direct on her version of the 911 TRO episode. Oh my goodness. I think Cross is going to be going on for days. Janie, on the arm pic sent to mom, AH said Johnny hit and cut her with his rings, yet 2/3 of her face looked perfect without makeup. I agree with you. And if you're going to take the time to take the picture of the bruise, why not take a picture of your face too? Meg Waisada, thank you for the super sticker. Paris Forever, thank you for the super sticker. Vicky, with the dog out the window, at first she said she couldn't remember if it was her dog or his. I agree. Someone had your dog out the window moving vehicle, you don't remember? I agree with you. Those inconsistencies, one inconsistency is not a big deal. The expert having to reference her notes, not a big deal. These details missing and these inconsistencies, a bigger deal when they add up. Miss K, as an abuse survivor, it didn't happen in the beginning. Leaving was hard because they isolate you and make you depend on them. She had outs. I agree with you. That's why I'm not condemning her for staying or saying she couldn't possibly have been a victim because she stayed. No, but she bought him a knife, did drugs with him, and admits to beating him and yells at him for leaving. You think at least if you're the victim, you let the other person leave so you can escape, or you just let him leave and hope he never comes back. Sarah Allison, is it me or does her lawyers and Amber Heard take stuff that she did to Johnny and twist it to make it look like he did it to her? That's definitely what the expert sounded like. He sounded like he was describing Amber as the perpetrator, or she. Ms. Kim, Amber Heard's PR firm are the ones coaching her now. The fact that she fired the first one makes me believe she's not happy about things are going. I agree. People were telling me that mainstream media was reporting she was winning. I don't think she feels that way, or she wouldn't have fired her PR team. Robin, if Johnny was possessive, wouldn't he be checking her phone and emails and pictures and videos she was sending? Yes, I think he would be. We haven't heard that yet. Samazon, AH would never agree to the mutual toxic narrative. I agree, but, well, I probably agree, but I think she'd have a better chance at winning. But again, this is about the PR battle, so you're right. Wayne Lang, thank you for the super sticker. Imperfect creation. The fact that she doesn't remember anything after cavity search, baloney. I've suffered assault and you don't forget anything about before, during, or after. 11,500 now. Wild. Angela Vargas, do you think Amber made her lawyers bash JD? Why do you think they've overcomplicated rather than simplify the case? I think it's a PR battle. I think it's hard to take your lumps or take your L's and say, listen, she may look worse, but if we do it this way, we can win. So it depends on what your goal is in the trial. Because being the only one to admit that you did abuse the other person is risky. And if you lose, then you can lose it all. But again, we already have her admitting she punched him in the face. So kind of tough to overcome that. Sports bad calls. Thank you. Lisa Anderson, you may have missed this. or I'm sorry, I may have missed this if it was mentioned already. What are your thoughts on JD not looking directly at Amber Heard and he kept his head down? I think that is more likely what an abuse victim would do. Don't want to look your abuser in the eye. He didn't want to have facial expressions to be judged by the cameras or the jury. So that's probably why he looked down. Kelly DeBetts. Amber Heard was like she scripted her testimony and memorized it. JD was wiping his nose, both nostrils, like he had been fighting tears. Interesting. Thank you, Christina Liberty. Do you think the jurors might be watching you or others? Angela LaForest said. People have asked me this, and until tonight, I would have said no way because, and I still think tonight, I don't understand why. I don't think so. I can't seem to think why they would be watching me. Maybe some of the bigger channels potentially. I do think that the legal teams potentially have people doing this, searching social media, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram to see what the people are saying about it. But the jurors, I sure hope not. I hope they're not doing any online research. Fish face 123ism. So she is doing all this complaining from 2012 and 2013, but she goes on to marry him for 15 months and gets millions, right? Sounds like it. Do you know if the jury will give a verdict right away and if Johnny Depp has any other legal way to ask for justice after this trial? I have no idea how long the jury will take. There's not really a limit on that. Tammy Stockbridge, didn't the defense just yesterday try to get the case dismissed by claiming she wasn't the author of the op-ed, then today within minutes saying they said she was the author of the title, and the motion to dismiss is a normal thing that happens in the middle of the trial. So there's a difference between the op-ed and the title because she's not the author of the title. The evidence is that the Washington Post came up with the title, I think. Thank you, Monroe. Tony Marie, the channel, grew up in Tampa, St. Pete. Now I live near the Mouse House in Orlando. And next time I'm down that way, I'll treat you to Ted Peters. Treat you to Ted Peters. I don't know. I'm not picking that up. Are you talking about the two Peters here? Awesome. Yeah. Let me know when you're down this way. Maybe we'll do some kind of like live event or something. Thank you. Stay strong. Soul Garden. She makes claims that can be easily shut down by a Google search. Paparazzi photos of her day after beating, makeup free, no bruises. Thoughts. The jury and the people outside the court or inside the courtroom are not supposed to be doing these Google searches. So I'm going to try to base everything I have and think about the case based on what's going on in it as much as I can. But my thoughts are Johnny's team should have that, and they should use that in this trial. Andrew IRL, you seem very apt calling objections and ID areas to press. Is it really just easier to judge from sidelines, or did they pick the wrong lawyers? I'm not going to say they picked the wrong lawyers. I think certain lawyers have certain personalities. I am very type A. I have to guard against being aggressive. And one of my strengths that I like is multitasking. Like I can listen to the testimony, be reading a deposition, be objecting, be writing a note to the client, be talking to my co-counsel behind me. And you have to be able to do that and constantly be paying attention to everything. I would not say they picked the wrong lawyers. I would say they're probably picking and choosing their objections. They have strategy, and different lawyers have different strengths. That's what I'll say about it. Susie, I will wear your shirt on Melbourne, Australia. Brandy Posada, thank you. ABC, thank you. My phone is blowing up with Twitter follows and Instagram follows, which is fun. This is wild. Mama, we made it is what it feels like, as Mark Jackson would say. Julie O. Dude, it was on live with the green versus blue folder. I watched it with my own eyes, no glasses, LASIK 2010 vision. I believe you, Julie. And I saw the video. That's just shocking to me. Thank you so much, Full Moon, for the super sticker. Jorge Torres, just tuned in. Your opinion, how's this case going? I still think Johnny's ahead, but I think Dr. Hughes was a win for Amber Heard overall, unless the jury just thought she was so biased and couldn't buy anything she was saying. I don't think the cross was strong enough, but we're listening to Amber now, and if they buy her testimony, then she could come back in this trial. So far, I am not buying it, but the jury may see it differently. AH claimed that Johnny kept hitting her in the face the same time she claimed that he bruised her arm. Did you notice the bruise? No bruises on her face pic? Absolutely. And not just no bruises, but also no cuts, no blood, nothing like that. Sarah Gruber, I started watching Emily in September of 20. She was celebrating 5K subs. You're well on your way. Wow, that's awesome. Stay strong. It's hard being objective with our dear Johnny. Stella by the Sea, thank you. Shalon Flores, there is a pending sanctions motion for failing to turn over evidence. Depp's team is asking for an instruction. What does that look like? So if they get a curative instruction on these text messages, the judge would potentially say to the jury, we have text message from Johnny Depp. They requested the text messages from Amber Heard, and Amber Heard refused to give those text messages to Johnny Depp and his team, and therefore they were unable to use those text messages in the trial. You are allowed to put a negative inference on that and have a thought basically that there may have been something bad or a negative reason Amber Heard would not want to turn over those text messages. Now, usually you've got to talk and argue with the judge as to what you want that instruction to be. That's what I would ask for the instruction to be. A true survivor comes with dates and times. You never forget exactly when it happened. You don't say general things like he always hit me without qualifying it with specifics. Google user, I want to agree with you, but we've seen a lot of criminal trials where the abuse happened 20, 30 years ago, and some details are lost. Now, this was not 20, 30 years ago, and I agree with you, she should have details, but it's not kind of a one-size-fits-all. Courtney, please respond to my previous super chat, new sub. I don't know if I've already hit that, but I'm hitting hundreds of super chats, so hopefully I hit it. Walter Jara, most evidence presented so far shows so much dishonesty and ill intent from her that it's hard to believe she's the victim here. Does fit defamation. I think if they start to think like you, where it's, I can't believe anything she's saying, then they could believe it's defamation. But if they believe even some of what she's saying about the abuse and that she believes she's a victim and what she's saying has some truth to it, then it wouldn't be defamation if it's not false. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Full Moon, for the super chat, super sticker. Isa Mello, if JD wins, will the op-ed be removed from the Washington Post? It's a good question. I don't think so. I think it's not an injunction. You'd have to have an injunction against the Washington Post to get them to take it down. Amber would just pay money to him if he wins. Oscar, did JD's attorney miss an opportunity on cross regarding Hughes only having testified same-sex male-to-male DV and hetero female abuser to male? Absolutely, Oscar. Absolutely. I think they could have dove into this bias way more. I think cross was absolutely a missed opportunity. Martha Cab, why is she not crying more? Why is her voice not quivering? I don't believe her. I don't know why she's not crying more, but she's not quivering. Her voice isn't quivering because she's not crying, which I think was your point. Courjine Bewit, thank you. Sonia Hart, op-ed really only talks of SA. Doesn't that mean she has to prove SA and DA? DA is not the same as SA. Even if makes them believe DA happened, wouldn't he win? It's not just SA. It's she believes she's an abused victim. She also believes that she had the wrath of a powerful male behind her as part of the Me Too movement. All of the statements are kind of more than SA or SV, whatever you're calling it, SA. That was in the title, though. So it's absolutely part of it, but I don't think it's the only part of it. And that's why her expert gave this very vague and, in my opinion, inappropriate definition of SA. The expert leans so heavily on AH's claims. If lawyers can prove AH lied, would it totally discredit the expert? Absolutely. Garbage in, garbage out. Chelsea J, DV victim, don't recall tons, but don't believe AH. Exactly, Chelsea. Thank you for another point of view. I'm not saying that just because there's not enough details means it's not true. There's context to how she's testifying as well. River Bowen, liars fill their stories with tons and tons of extraneous details and redundancies. AH's testimony was filled with irrelevant nonsense. Also, JD allegedly slapped her repeatedly, but her face was clear in the bruise pic. Agreed. Good assessment there. Summarized everything. Jali Nickel. Strange that AH claimed JD beat her on the yacht for getting involved with his child and then still allowed his child to leave with her. A lot of strange things in the testimony. Sonia Esquivel. I didn't want to look at my abuser in court. He acted exactly like her. I didn't even disclose details. I can't believe she was so bold with true PTSD. Thank you, Sonia, for sharing. TRPR, thank you for the super sticker. Carrie Lee, I think both of her witnesses so far are deceased. Snazzy Trinkets. If JD wins, can he sue publishers for the article? I don't know if it's outside the statute of limitations. If it's not, sure. But I think he would have sued them in this case. They were probably an indispensable party, so maybe he couldn't even sue him now if he wanted to. Katie Foreman, thank you. Dawn Marie thinks TikTok thinks Amber Heard was wearing an earpiece. That would be a really big risk that I would be surprised about. But man, I've been surprised in this trial a couple times. Haney, would you have taken Amber's case if she came to you with all the info she's presented to the lawyer she's using now? If I believed her, yes, I would take her case. If I didn't believe her, no, I would not take her case and perpetrate this, just continue with this fraud and lie. I would not. But if I believed her, sure, yes, I would take her case, even against somebody like Johnny Depp. Kayla Sage, thank you. 808 Fee, I think she has a tell. She switches tense from past to present when she is untruthful. Just my opinion. I will have to keep track of that as we listen tomorrow. Larry Beck, did JD have any DV accusations prior to Amber Heard? It seems like no. As a juror, I would find that curious. Yeah, I mean, they said it in opening. He said it. Multiple people have said it. I think the answer to that is clearly no. Thank you, Cheryl Huffman, for the super chat. Charlie W., what is the link for your merch site? It will be posted in the chat. It will also be posted in the video. It's also posted on our other videos, so we will make sure we absolutely post it in the chat. It probably already has been posted in the chat because this super chat came in 20 minutes ago. Thank you, TWD is freaking amazing. Aman Alwat. She even tried belittling Johnny from the stand, saying him crying was weird. Even her dad never cried. Even now, trying to torture the guy, it appears. Your thoughts? She said a lot of stuff was weird that I don't think is that weird, especially when she just heard her expert say, oh, they apologize. They do anything they can to win you back. They buy you gifts. They say what you want to hear, and they cry, basically, is what I got from that. So it seems like it wasn't that weird, according to her expert's testimony. How is he possessive about her roles, telling her what she could and couldn't do? Aquaman is okay with Jason Momoa. I know. It's just her opinion, basically. Seneda's had to do a depo while suffering from PTSD, was a wreck. My attorney had to force a break a few times. I felt it on Rittenhouse when he was on the stand. I don't see it with Amber Heard. So you know from experience what it's like. Neo. Horse story was to create a subconscious metaphor in the minds of the jury that will somehow be used to suggest her upbringing with horses is why she stayed in an abusive relationship. Stay on the horse. Well, that's like multiple levels of inception. Michelle Henry, didn't Dr. Hughes admit today that she knew that Amber Heard had hit Johnny on many occasions? I think she just said that one occasion where she heard the recording, which is why if I was Johnny's lawyer, I would have played a lot more recordings than he played. I think Amber Heard's team was strategic in calling her up before the week break. However, this gives Depp's team time to prep on her testimony. Absolutely. It cuts both ways. The steel curtain. I agree with you. Cuts both ways. Jen, on rebuttal, can JD's team call people who haven't testified yet? For example, his daughter, sorry, it's little AMT. Oh, little amount. Don't worry about it. They can call people on rebuttal who haven't testified yet. Yes, but they have to be in response to what's said here. Potentially his daughter could be. So maybe, but I don't think he wants to do that to his kids if I had to guess. ER Leah, her drugs and meds, her drugs are meds, his drugs are drugs. Yeah, I liked how she said the allotted amount or the prescription. I can't remember. She said something that made the MDMA or the mushrooms seem like it was a legitimate amount that she took. AH seems to have cameras set up everywhere. Why? I don't know if you mean in the courtroom or during their relationship. During the relationship, she was trying to catch him abusing her or admitting something. Sarah Victoria, thank you. Dance 415, good call on your part, Peter, that they are going to use one of the female lawyers to cross-examine her. It looks like that's the plan. Absolutely. It's definitely the plan. We can tell that. And I think she has been a good lawyer throughout the trial, so I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Brandy Beauty Bargains. Do you think Amber Heard should be asked who was in the vehicle when Johnny Depp allegedly held the dog out the window? Yes. Details. She's going to tell stories. I want details because if she doesn't remember the details, it makes it less credible. Thank you, Raz. Victorious Gavi, did you see YouTuber Popcorn Planet's video regarding shenanigans in the courtroom between AH's lawyers and the PR guy? Thoughts? I saw it on Twitter. I don't know if it was Popcorn Planet's video that I saw. Looked sketchy and unnecessary because that PR guy can just go to Amber Heard's lawyer's office and get those notes. So I don't know why they did that weird, like holding it down by their side so people wouldn't notice it thing. Doug D, at the beginning of Amber's testimony, it seems to me that she was making the jury love Johnny even more with what she was saying and her expressions. I agree with you. I felt the same way. Shep hurting forward. How would anyone know if the jurors are doing outside research? By asking them. Honestly, it's really the only way. They don't take their phones and search them. By asking them and trying to put the fear of God in them before they leave. Dance 415. JD hasn't looked at Amber the whole time. She's looked. You're right. Lulu Bot. I liked the cross. In my opinion, his style meant that important points hit hard. Also, great juxtaposition of her awful hearsay testimony versus documentary evidence. Talk Warrior. Posted your link on my community tab and Truth Social. Maybe that helped a little with the viewers tonight. Like your style. Thank you. Share with your friends, everybody. And make sure you subscribe. 11,600 is about double what we've ever had in a live, so that's fine. Mindy T, could you speak more about breaking for the judges conference? I think it's a mistake releasing the jurors for days without the media. Isn't that important? Does the jury go back to work for a week? Yes, the jury can go back to work. I agree that it's a mistake. I mean, I think they can go back to work. I don't know if the judges put that restriction on them. I think it's a mistake. I don't want to belittle judicial conferences, but I think she should have skipped it. But then again, a judge would have to skip it just about every year. It's very hard to get a 6-week trial docket, so I understand why they took it anyways, because you don't want to push this back even further. But I agree with you. I think it's a problem. Somebody asked me in another video if I thought it was going to be an issue for appeal. My guess is the lawyers had to waive that issue for appeal in order to take this trial docket. Prit Twist. Amber said JD made her feel like $1 million. I thought, not 7. Good one. Kim Z Life. Why repeat a lot of tea? Did mention liver issues. I know, just weird. A lot of tea. I mean, like a lot of tea. Am I missing something? Is that illegal? Abuse started before marriage. Why get married? Imperfect creations. While I would agree with you, unfortunately, I think this does happen statistically. Autumn, do you think Amber Heard had a kid for sympathy like Holmes? Pete said that to me. For anybody that's following that case, and Pete's doing my partner, the Elizabeth Holmes, Balwani, all that Theranos stuff. He mentioned it. Catherine Smith, fun finding you on Nick. Did you catch her? He said he'd cut off his hand during supposed incident. Yes. And I said in tonight's video, well, she took him up on that, at least partially. Down low. Why didn't JD's lawyer press more when Amber admitted to feeling like she's had 3 or 4 different personalities, that screamed personality disorder? Maybe they'll hit it on cross. The nurse just didn't remember anything, so if it wasn't in her notes, they weren't going to get much out of it. Christine Ventura. I have been in a DV situation where I almost died. I don't believe Amber, even with the charades she's played. I have this gut feeling that Johnny is being really honest. What would you ask Amber Heard on cross and why? I've done this on a couple of videos. Because tonight is late, I'll just do a quick recap. I would ask her for a lot of details. I would show her a lot of the text messages and the recordings. I would impeach her with a lot of things that her lawyers have asked to other witnesses. I would show the nursing notes. I would explain and get out of her that she actually exhibits a lot of the tendencies that her expert calls the abuser and not the victim. And yeah, I mean, I would ask her tons of those questions that show she's the abuser and see if she kind of snaps and some of that anger comes out. And if you really believe she has BPD, you know how she's going to react to certain questions. Anyone question the maids? I raised 4 daughters. The washcloths or makeup removal pads would be caked with it, and maids could attest to the products in the bathroom. I don't know if I would think that was important enough to do personally on this case. Stacey Corum, I mean, her lawyers are making a big deal about it, but I don't know how that's doing for them. I think Johnny Depp didn't look up because he didn't want to be accused of intimidation. I agree with you. He doesn't want to be judged for any reaction. 808 Fee, you missed mine as well. I have read a couple from you, 808 Fee. It may just be that we're so far behind. We're still 15 minutes behind on the super chats. So that may be the problem. Picket Books. What Amber Heard is countersuing for? What proof does she need? Defamation. She has to prove that, what Johnny's lawyer said about her was a lie. I haven't seen much evidence of it. Can JD sue Amber Heard for the DV after this, win or lose, as the defamationist case is technically? No, it would probably have to be in this case, I would guess. Team Zero, the only time I believe the AH was crying was talking about JD addiction and said she was trying to save his life. It seemed more sincere. Okay. All right. It's getting late here. I'm going to have to call it soon. This is wild. Let me text here. All right. So we're going to call it here very soon. I've got about 20 more questions to read. The person I saw on the stand sure doesn't seem like the same person we hear the audio. The audio has no fear, just saying, I agree. Thank you, Love Rules. Capri, in her deposition, her description of how JD hit her and dragged her by the hair was almost exactly like the movie Secret Window. Her mind is a fantasy world. We're seeing lots of movie references, which is not a great thing when we're talking about your testimony if you're a witness in the case. Colleen, as said, Jay hit her face when she was walking away. Then she turned around and asked him why he hit her. This isn't possible unless he's Flash. That's a good point. Honest Jake, thank you for the super chat. Melissa Damron Folkerts. Do you think JD's attorney will go after her hard on cross, or will they play it differently? I would have said yes, they're going to go hard after her, but after Hughes, maybe not. I actually think the lawyer that's going to cross her is going to go pretty hard after her. Can Johnny's lawyers bring in evidence? The folder change. They wouldn't bring it into evidence if they thought it was an issue. They would bring it to the judge's attention. This is from Mary Gilmore, and the judge would have to make a call as to what she's going to do about that. Prit Twist. Anyone know what book? Anyone know what book Dirty Carpet Line is from? I don't. Julio, Paul McCartney played a video of Johnny Depp on a huge screen in the background of a concert to show support. I stand with Johnny. I saw that. Very interesting. Honest Jake, Quaaludes haven't been in production since 1985. That reminded me of the Bill Cosby case. Another lie from Amber Heard and one of Johnny's personalities. About one of Johnny's personalities. Yeah, she said there's a cocaine Johnny, a Quaalude Johnny, a drunk Johnny. Yeah, not great. Heat 131. Do you think Amber Heard's witness was reading from a script after the session? She put all her papers away, even though JD's team was supposed to get copies. I don't think she was reading a script. I think she was just referencing it to make sure she couldn't get impeached. I think that's what she was trying to avoid, is getting impeached by missing a date or a time or something like that. Millie Pinsky, Mr. Recap, writing papers. Love your analysis. Millie, please go check it out. Go jump back to the beginning and check it out and let me know what you think in the comments. Yuritsa Acevedo, do you think Johnny would expose all of this to the world if he wasn't innocent? I know I wouldn't do it unless I'm confident in my truth. I agree with you. I can't imagine him destroy, because this is not good for his reputation either, the drugs and all this stuff. It's embarrassing for his family and his kids and his friends. So I agree with you. I think if this was all totally a lie and he committed all this abuse and physical abuse and violated her with a bottle and a cavity search, I really don't see him moving forward with this case. I mean, he would have a serious mental disorder if he decided to do that and just totally pathologically lie about all this. Becky C. Through us spreads the fragrance of the knowledge of him everywhere. Keep up the good work. Testimony and witnesses mean more to me through this trial. Sarah Shamlin, what could Elaine answer movie? Why could Elaine? Oh gosh, that's just refreshing recollection. It's background. It didn't matter. It wasn't important, but it did show, like, kind of weird that Amber didn't even remember the Machete movie or whatever that she was in 2012. You should collaborate with Popcorn Planet. I don't know who that is. Is that a lawyer? I'd be happy to. I hope nobody takes offense to that. I am not a big YouTube person. I just got into YouTube like a year and a half ago, watching like golf videos and sports videos. So if he's a lawyer or some kind of commentator, and he probably has a channel 10 times as big as mine, so I don't mean anything by it. But I don't know who that is. I'll be happy to talk to them if they're talking about this case. Tell them to hit me up, get in their chat, and let me know. I'm always down to talk about this stuff. I have a lot of fun doing it. Although it's late tonight, I'd like to get to bed. Can JD attorney ask Amber Heard, does she have any DV in her past? So if there was an agreement not to get into it, then he can't. But if the judge says the door's open, then yes, he can. Greg B., she said that she did drugs one last time, but their wedding was after that. And you see them, there was dance drugs or something. She said it was the first and last time. I thought it was a good idea to do drugs with Johnny. I think that's BS too. I hate Brussels sprouts. I also noticed the change of verb tense in her testimony. Now we will have to listen for it. Absolutely. Doug D, does it hurt Dr. Hughes' credibility with the jury that she submitted incomplete documents? I sure hope so. I mean, I can't say for sure what a jury's going to think, but I really hope that they just leave blanks for the exact answers that you're given, and you just don't even write them in. Jenna Ensman, she's saying so much without being asked. Isn't this shooting herself in the foot for cross-examination? Her lawyers are probably like, shut up right now. No, I think they want to let her talk because that's how she can win if they believe her. But Johnny's lawyers have to pick it up, and they have to not be afraid of taking a lot of time going through and getting what they need to get out of her. Holly Berry, if JD loses, does Amber Heard have a good chance to win her countersuit, or will she bother? She is bothering right now. It's happening in the same trial. Just joining. Sorry if you've already answered. No problem. I think they both could lose. I do not think Amber Heard has a strong chance of winning because I think if Johnny loses, it's because they stuck to the law. And if they stick to the law and Johnny loses, Amber should lose too. X of Hughes, this from TH, did enough to bring back Curry, obvious gender bias, and better not to give chance to make up excuses, save time, and calmer approach, bigger punch later. I hope they have a strategic reason for doing this, and a lot of you have brought this up. You read it. Thanks. There are a lot of super chats. 808p. Thank you, because you all know I feel bad about missing super chats, even though I'm clearly doing my best to answer all these questions. It is past my bedtime. I've been working since 8:30 this morning. Mont 0307. Amber Heard's new PR guy was spotted chatting with the court photographer and passing notes with the Amber Heard's legal team. Is that normal? Is that allowed? Talking to the court photographer is no big deal. Passing the notes, they're allowed to talk to him, and they could have passed that note at the office. I don't know why they did that weird, shady pass in the courtroom for everybody to see. Harvey, thank you so much. Yaritza, thank you again. Google user, you missed a $20 super chat I sent. Very sad equals me. I have literally 2 people working this stream full time and a mod. I'm doing the absolute best I can. I'm sorry if I missed it. Shoot me an email, lawyeryouknow@gmail.com, and I'll answer your question. I'm literally trying to get to every single one of these. I promise I'm not skipping any on purpose. WRD 399 super sticker. Thank you. S Flow. How do questions differ when a lawyer or you in particular are questioning someone with an alleged personality disorder like AH with BPD? If there's like a big narcissistic or more likely to lie or double down or triple down or give you details you can use later, you want to get that out of them. You want to make them step in it themselves, not make them, but let them step in it themselves. You don't try to like take advantage of it, of somebody if they have a personality disorder. You just, if you think they're lying and their personality disorder is going to magnify that, then you want the jury to see that they're lying. And that's what it would come down to. Michelle Higgins, thank you. Hi, Candy. I just got that. All right. Carla Olivares. I think the health class videos she referenced were sex ed classes, boys, girls divided, where they raised the issue of domestic and sexual violence. Got it. I did not have that health class, I guess. There were videos shown, but it wasn't on sexual or domestic violence. Tanya Jellison, great job you are doing. I felt like stabbing myself this afternoon while listening to her testimony. Yeah, it was tough. There was some rough moments for sure. Thank you, Bop It, for the super chat. Thank you, Max Sauce, as well. And I think we have hit the last super chat I have in here. So that's it. Nobody else send me any questions. We are done. I am out of here. This was crazy. This was fun. You guys made it fun with all the questions. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's get it up there and build this community even bigger. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter with our handle right here at Tragos Law. This was fun. You guys rock. Hope to see you again soon. I'm out of here.